Hi there, I'm Christine, the Gemini Stitcher, and welcome to my YouTube channel. How are we all doing today? I'm getting a bit excited because I'm doing my first sew-along-ish. Well, yeah, I am. I'm doing a sew-along, let's be positive. Now, I haven't got any fancy equipment, so the angles that you're looking at when I'm sewing might not be the best, but hopefully it will help you to do this fantastic new pattern from Maison Fauve. The pattern I'm going to do for my sew along is the Maison Fauve Salto top. Now, Maison Fauve are a French pattern company, but the instructions in here are also in English. But we all know translations can sometimes get a little bit lost. So I thought there were one or two things that I had to read and reread when I was doing it. So I thought it's a good one to do a sew along. It's a new pattern and it's one that's really popular because the fold line have sold out. I'm sure they'll get more stock in if that's where you want to buy it from, but you can get it direct from Maison Fauve. There is a UK outlet, so I will pop the link below and then you'll be able to get the pattern. So let's get started. Before I do start, a little public announcement. I have made two of these tops, or I am making two of these tops as part of the sew along. So don't get confused that the fabrics are different in some of the images. When I'm talking to you, it will be one fabric, and when it is the recording of me sewing, it will be another fabric, but it is the same pattern. And then at the end, I'll show you both of the tops. So both of the tops I've decided to make are the ones without the button placket on the front, just for ease for me, because I need to get these done for my jollies, and sewing buttonholes is not on my agenda right now. You can do it with the button placket, and I probably will do in future, but for these two, the sew along, they're done without it. So I'll just do a quick run through of the pattern pieces before we start. So we've got, looking at them, I'm very organised, am I? The front band, which because I'm not doing the front placket, I've done it on the fold, and I've got two of those. We've got two of the back bands on the fold. Then you have four of the front arm bands. These have all got tangled up. And four of the back armbands. Then the only other pieces are the back piece. Look at this fabric. My son got me this for my Mother's Day, Mother's Day instead of flowers. Wow, eye popping or what? I think it's going to look stunning in this. Anyway, so two fronts. One front, sorry, two fronts. One front on the fold and one back piece. The right way up on the fold. The first thing that we need to do is do some gathering stitches along the front and the back. So I will just open this front panel and then you can see I've marked some lines on it which hopefully you can see. So on the front, there's the first line we're going to gather between that notch there and that notch there. Then there's a gap in the middle, and then we're going to gather from that notch there to that notch there. So to do your gathering stitch, set your machine to a length of 5, or the maximum stitch length on your machine, and we're going to do 2 rows of stitching quite close together, about half a centimetre apart, I would say. And then we're going to use those. Give yourself long tails at the beginning and the end so that you can use them to pull the fabric together and create nice cute gathers. I'll just pop onto my machine, Betty, and then I'll get back to you with the next instruction. So we're going to pop the front and back on one side now, and we're going to work on the front and the back neckband pieces. We have 2 front neckbands and 2 back neckband pieces. And what we need to do is take one of each and separate them. Can't have long nails and sew, they don't go together. What about you? So that's the front neckband piece. The long edge we're going to press under by about that much. It's that a centimetre, 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to do the same with one of the back pieces. And then when we've done that, we're going to get them both wrong sides together, and then we're going to sew them together along the long short edge, the opposite one to the one that we've just pressed. So we're going to sew them together, and then we're going to turn them right side out and give them a good press where that seam is. So we'll go and do that, and then bob back. So these are the front and the back neckband. You can see one end's been pressed under, there's the seam in the middle, and they've both been sewn together along that top short edge. The next thing that we're going to do is attach the front and the back neckbands to the front and the back pattern pieces. Okay, this is where we're up to. This is the front piece. I'm showing you this one because it's got the two lots of gathering stitches, which I hope you can see there. And then it's left plain in the middle. So it's been sewn. Let's turn it round. Right sides together, like that. That's the seam of the two that we sewed together, two top panels we sewed together. So we're just going to press that seam up into the neckband piece. Then we're going to fold it over where we pressed it before at the top. And then where that was folded over will fall really neatly on top of the other sewing. I'm going to pin it in place from the right side from there. And then we're going to sew just on the edge of the band, and that will also attach this loose facing in on the inside at the same time. There we go. So that's the back one with the top stitching on the outside. And you can see it's caught the facing on the inside as well. So the next thing to do is I've got quite a few loose threads now, so I'm going to tidy all those threads up and take the gathering tacking stitches out of the front and back, and then we'll carry on to the next stage. This next piece is important that you get accurate. On your front and your back neckband pieces, I'll just get this one up close. You've got, this one's the back, so you've got F and G notch markings on the back, on the outside of the band, and the same on the front. They need to be marked on your armband pieces. And what I've done is used removable pen. This just washes off, and I've used two different colours, and I've marked each notch on every piece for the front and the back bands before I start constructing them, and then I don't get lost with the instructions. So now we're going to start constructing the armbands. So you get two of your front pieces and place them pretty side or right side facing up with the curves going outwards. It's important to do this so that you don't end up with two armbands both going the same way. Ain't gonna work. So set them down on your table or worktop, pretty side up, both curving out, and then use that as your guide. Place your back pieces on top of your front pieces, right sides together, and pin them both at the same time, and then you know you've got. So there we go, they're the two that I've done. You pin them together at the straighter edge, not where the curve is. It's the bit that's going to go under your arm, and this is going to be your shoulder. So you do that for two and sew along that line, and then do the same again for the other two, and then press the seam open. pressed all the seams open on all of them, and then you need to pair them together. So get the right ones matching, and you'll end up with 2 continuous armholes. I pin them together along the middle and make sure I pin where the centre shoulder seam is so that that matches up. Doing this, when I'm sewing, I don't have to keep taking the pins out until I've finished. So we're going to sew all the way round the inner curve from end to end, and then the outer curve you're going to mark. Remember those notches that were marked with that pen? The 2 inner ones, or the 2 nearest the centre seam, I put 2 pins horizontally like that, and we're going to sew from one pin to the other pin only on the outside curve, and then leave the rest open. So we'll do that for both of the armholes, and then I'll bob back. There we go. Sewn all the way round, and then where the marks are on the outer curve, I've just sewn from one to the other of the ones closest to the centre seam. So what we're going to do now, where those 2 sets of stitches finish, we're going to snip carefully into the ends of the stitching on both sides with a pair of small scissors, and then we're going to pull them through so that they're the right side out. There we go. Turned them both through the right way and snipped where the stitches finish on the short stitched edge. That makes sense. so that the fabric edges pull through. So I'm going to press all the seams, including those curved seams there. So easiest way is to start at that end and do all the way round that side and then press the other side. So when you've pressed it all, this is what you end up with. The inside curve all pressed, and then the outside curve pressed to where it's finished. And because we cut those little snips into the seam up to where the stitching was, I've been able to pull through the edge of the fabric, because we're going to use that as the seams to attach the sleeve binding. Got what it was called then. The sleeve binding to the sleeve. So one last bit of pressing before we start sewing again, and that is take one side of each at each end of the same side at each end where it's the raw edges, fold it over and press it in all the way along. I'll do one and then I'll show you, because I'm rubbish at explaining, aren't I? So what I've done is left one side out with a raw edge. That's the side we're going to use to sew it into the armhole with, and then the other side I've pressed under all the way up to where that little notch is out and pressed it in, and then done the same side on the other end. Then made sure I've got a matching pair by pressing under the same side, put them together as they'll be curved outwards, and press under the same side or sides on the other armhole. Start with the front piece. This is the front. I'm going to pin that binding around that curve on this side and the same on this side and sew them in. I'll get them pinned in and then show you what they look like before I start sewing. So I've pinned the unpressed edge. There's the pressed edge, unpressed edge to the sleeve front. And then when I've got here where that little notch was, I've pinned it right up to that edge, and we're going to sew right as close to there as we can. It's starting to look like a top. Exciting! So what have we got to do next? The side seams. So pin the side seams together, and then when you get to where the armhole facing is, open it out like that. Match the seams up, and we're going to stitch. Make sure that that seam that joins it to the armhole is facing into the armhole binding. stitch it up to that corner pivot and stitch right up to the end, all the way along. Then you need to finish your seams in however you want to. I use an overlocker. So I'm going to sew them and then I'm going to overlock the seams. Just simply overlock them together and trim them down so it's a nice thin narrow seam inside my top. Looking good now, girls. So I've finished those seams off with the overlocker. Next, we need to deal with these inside facings and sew them down somehow. Now, there's a few ways that you can do this. It's already been pressed under, remember, we pressed that before. So all you're doing is turning it under and pinning it to the inside, ideally to that seam there, so that you can't see the stitching. But obviously, if you're hand sewing, that is, and you can hand sew it to that seam. If you don't want to hand sew it, you can just pin it from the outside, wing it, top stitch it, and go on a wing and a prayer and hope that it catches in. But in my experience with me, that would not work. I have no luck when I'm top stitching facings in. So what I do is pin it all on the inside, get some contrasting thread, tack it all the way round along the edge of the seam on the inside so that I know it's catching in the seam. And then on the outside, I follow the tacking stitches round when I top stitch and then take them out. Whew. I hate hand sewing, but just doing this bit of tacking makes my life so much easier. So you can see the tacking line now goes slightly out there, but as long as I sew where the seam line is, it should catch everything in. Fingers crossed. So there we go. That's the top stitching on the outside. Ta-da! And that's it all caught up on the inside. Really well chuffed with that. So the only thing we've got left to do is the hem. And to do that, I'm just going to press it over a narrow hem and then press it again and then top stitch all the way around. Job done. Hello! I'm so chuffed with this. It's going to be so light, airy, and summery on my holes. Love it. So that is my Salto top made. Well, two of them actually. Because you'll have noticed I've also done one in an embroidered ochre pattern, and I'll give them both a nice press, get rid of all the bits of stray cotton that are always there, and then I'll give you a little twirl at the end of the video so you can see what they look like. So what did I think of the Salto pattern? It was not a beginner pattern simply because of the fiddly bits around the armholes and getting that lined up. But if you tack it in place and take your time, I would say an advanced beginner could make it. Would I make this pattern again? Absolutely I would. It is a brilliant stash buster. It takes under a metre of fabric, and if you've got less than that, you could do some colour blocking with it as well and have a different front and back contrast like I've done with the embroidered ochre one. I didn't have enough fabric to do the bands with, so I did that in some matching linen, plain linen fabric, which I think looks really nice. In fact, I'm going to make a pair of shorts in the linen as well, so it's a co-ord for my holes. If you've liked my sew along video, give it a thumbs up and a like, because that means that other people will get to see it as well. If you want to comment, send me any comments, any questions in the comments box below, and I will get back to you if I can answer them. I don't have the answers to everything, but I will try. And if you want to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button and you'll see my next video. I do at least 2 videos per week, and hopefully you'll find them interesting. Take care and happy sewing.